So for my next project in my 7 Days of Steampunk series, I'm going to be working again in my Dina Wakley multi-surface journal, again on just one single page on the cotton. So to start off with, because I want to smear some paint around today, I'm going to just give the page a complete coat of clear gesso, which will just help when I start moving the paint around the page. So I'm just going to give it a liberal kind of coat. Try and get as much on. I'm not really going right up to the edges today. I just want to make sure I get it all the way down the bottom. Make sure there's plenty on. That way I won't be in danger of any of the paint kind of catching when I want to smear it. Lots of smeariness today. Go over and over, just make sure I've got decent coverage. There we go, that should do it, and because it's clear gesso, you can't see where I've been. Just to make things complicated. Okay, so that's that. First step done. I'll get that dried off and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that the page is dry with the gesso, I've got some baby wipes and I've also got some indigo blue hot cocoa brown paint. So I'm going to use this as my base colour. I'm just going to take a little bit. I'm actually going to get the baby wipe, which is quite a moist one. Burst that bubble there. And I'm just going to take a little bit and I'm going to just start in the centre. And I'm just going to start working my way out towards the edges. Now if I hadn't have put the gesso on the page, it would have grabbed a little bit. So literally just use the baby wipe, work the paint into the page. Now, because the cotton in these pages is kind of woven, you're actually getting a little bit of texture showing through, which is cool. Don't mind that. I'm just rubbing so it goes darker in some areas, lighter in others. If I want a little bit of extra paint, just take a little bit, circular motions into the page, just to kind of work it in. Bring it into that corner, which kind of gives you a real nice kind of, almost like a leathery look to start off with, which is kind of what I was going for. And there's nothing in the background, so I can take some of that colour out, just kind of mottle it up a little bit, and just dab, just to break up those lines. So I've got some nice kind of lightness, a little bit of darkness, which is cool, like that. Happy with the way that looks. So I'm going to dry that off and then I'll be back. My apologies for that. So where was I? Okay, I was adding some highlights, just with tiny bits of paint just on the page, just to kind of create a little bit of texture in the background. And I'm just adding those and blending them with my finger. And I think, to be honest, because I'm going to have a focal point here, I think that is probably all I'm going to do. Just really light touches. That's really all I think it needs. Maybe just a tiny bit over here. Now obviously I could do this, you know, with credit card and that kind of stuff, but I want that blurry kind of look and feel, the smudge look and feel, if you get what I'm trying to say. Anyway, Right, so that needs to be quickly dried off because that's wet, and then we'll come back with a little bit of stenciling. So next up, this is the Wheels stencil from Dina Wakley Media, and I'm going to be using this one here and probably this one here, maybe the smaller one there. It's kind of steampunky, so it will fit in quite nicely with this page. I've got a little bit of a cosmetic sponge. I'm also using some Naples yellow from Reeves acrylic. So I'm just going to add a tiny amount on there because I don't want to overdo it. I'm trying to stick kind of with a steampunky colour palette, which is kind of neutrals, but also I just want to add in a little pop of colour here and there, just as a little bit of kind of interest into the background. You don't always have to stick to browns and rusts and oranges and that kind of thing. You can introduce something a little bit more bolder, providing it's not too overpowering. So because I'm only stenciling this through and it's not like a complete opaque pattern, we can get away with it really easily because it's just adding in some faded kind of interest into the background. See, it's not too bold. I'll do another one down here at the bottom. Being careful not to get the stencil in the paint. So just go around adding in, and it doesn't have to be brilliant, it doesn't have to be exact. In fact, we didn't actually get much by way of a centre in that one, did we? Let's just go a bit heavier. That's better. I'm liking that now. And then let's just add a smaller one about there. All good fun. So we've got that one, and then I want to add another large one about here, but I am going to be putting my focal point in here, so it will come, actually maybe that might be a bit better if I just offset that and join those two together. That might work. Yeah, I'm liking that. So create that kind of interest in the background. I'm not going too mad at this side because it's going to get covered up anyway. Let's see what we've got. Let's see what we've got. Yes. Like that. A bit steampunky, and another one of those smaller ones just to add maybe a little bit of interest just there and kind of join them up so it looks a little bit like a cog, but not, if you get my drift. That'll do. Yes. Like a lot. Okay, let's get it dried. Right, the next bit, I'm going to be using this industrial stencil from Tim Holtz, which has got the words lost, found, and all those numbers. So we're going to be adding in some of those into the page. I'm going to be using white for this because I want to try and bring a little bit of that white background back into the foreground. So I'll just load up another cosmetic sponge, and I'm going to go really lightly, I don't want a stark kind of pattern showing through. And then we'll do the word lost up there. Just lightly. And then we'll do the word found. In fact, let's do it that way around. About there. I'm not bothered if you can't actually read this properly. Just want that kind of hint of wordage in there. And then let's use those numbers again. Put those. Let's put them there. Like I said, I'm not bothered about getting a complete opaque image on this one. And then maybe, let's see, we've got that number there, that 375, which is quite nice. So I'll need a little bit more white paint. Just grab my sponge. That 375 I quite like there. Make it look a little bit kind of industrial, and then maybe use that bank of numbers again, maybe down here at the bottom. I'm literally just pushing the sponge through. Yeah, kind of like that. And then I've got that 1, 2, 4 there that we had on that lost. Maybe just extend that so it's next to that row of numbers that we had there. So it just extends that out a little bit, and I think I'm quite happy with that as it is. So again, I'll get that dried off and then I'll be right back. Next up, I've got some copper paint from Indigo Blue, the Miss Moneypenny, and I've just got some from the lid. I'm just going to take a little bit from the lid like so. Just add that to my craft mat, take a spritz of water, just activate that paint in the water just to get some drips. So I collect up as much as I can, and then we're going to start just adding a few splatters just to add a little bit of texture, background, and a little bit of bling just into that background there. That is going to be enough copper in the background, I think, for now anyway. So I'll get that dried off. Right, now that the copper paint is dry, you can see that shine on the page. Just adds a lovely kind of element to the background. Okay, so next up I've got some little pieces of tape or paper tape that I've cut from a sheet of Tim Holtz 12x12 backing paper. Now I've lost the front sheet to this set, so I can't remember what it's called. Sorry. And all I've got is a Dilutions glue stick, and I'm just going to add some glue to the back, and I'm going to build up a kind of corner piece just using these numerical bits rather than matte medium. So I'm just going to stick those down just to kind of create a corner cluster. And I'm just offsetting them slightly. So we've got those at that side, and I'll bring this next one down. To meet that corner there. And then I'm going to do the same thing over in the bottom left hand corner over here. But put the majority along the bottom. Maybe just have one. That's offset about there. And that just overlaps the wordage that we've got there. A bit more glue. and then just create it down a little bit, and then the final piece we'll use and just raise that a little bit, and that can then join in with that white bit there, and that's going to sit, and when I add my focal point, we'll put the focal point about here, so that's going to help to ground in that part of the page. So I need to leave that for a few minutes just to grab and hold into place, and once that's done I'll come back. They're pretty much dry now. So focal point time. Now I've printed off on my computer a sheet of elements that I purchased from the It Capilli Etsy store again, so from Cursey. I'll put the link here on screen again like I did before on the previous one, and also in the description area below. The only image I didn't buy from her was this one, because this is a photograph of my dad wearing one of my steampunk pith helmets, and I thought that might be quite nice to use Dad's face instead. I've got Einstein there, which was part of one of her kits, and then there's this diving helmet. Now my original idea was to do something like this, and I've just collaged this up on the computer just so I can see kind of how it fits together and what the sizings are like. And then what I did was I broke it all apart again into the individual components and reprinted it so that I could cut it out and then layer them over. I could still use this one and just cut Einstein's face out and put Dad's behind for ease, but I thought for once I'm going to cut all the individual elements out and stick them all down to create the cluster rather than cheat. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to go away, cut all of these individual elements out by hand, and then I'll be right back once I've done that. So it's been about an hour since I started cutting these things out. I got sidetracked with other things. So I've cut all the bits and pieces out. So I've cut the body out, I've cut Dad's head out, I've also cut the helmet out as well, but I'm not sure whether I actually want to use that. I haven't cut out Einstein's head though. The wings, and then there's the trunk, they're all nicely cut out. I have actually gone round the edges with a distress marker just to get rid of those unsightly white bits that you sometimes get when you cut. So just to kind of finish things off. First, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab that glue stick again, and from an old dictionary I've taken out the word ordinary. So ordinary, adjective, usual, common, not exceptional. So I'm going to glue that as a hidden message, if you like, into the background of my art journal page. I'm just adding the glue, and I'm going to stick it down about there. Now the thing with art journal pages and that kind of stuff is you can add hidden messages because you're the only person that knows they're in there, and these pages are for you anyway. So literally you can add secret messages, you can add rants, you can add anything you want into the back of your art journal. Hidden secrets, all that kind of stuff, and then cover them up because you're the only person that knows that they're in there. Okay, so that's stuck down. So the first layer that I want to add is the trunk. So I'm going to put the trunk down and then add my glue all the way around, lift it up, and then I'm going to place that over the top of my dictionary description, like I'm locking the word ordinary away inside the trunk. You'll see why. Okay, so the next step is I've got my man. So So I'm going to add my glue to the back of him. Make sure I'm not going to get glue anywhere. So just clean off that mat. I should have just used a piece of scrap paper, shouldn't I? It would have been a lot easier. So just remove that glue. Keep that to one side. Probably won't have to do this on the big bits. So just dry that off. And then I'm going to glue all the way around the back, but I'm not going to glue down his hand. Now you will see that I've actually cut the hand loose because I want to add the fish underneath there. So I'm not going to glue the arm, I'm going to leave that so I can lift it up later. And I'm going to place this now so that it looks as though he's grounded and sitting on the trunk, like so. And we've still got the arm to lift up for later. So glue all that down. I can then take my little cute puppy, add the glue on him, and he can stick down as though he's sat just in front, like so. And then before we go any further, just clean that glue off again. Would have been so much easier with the paper, never mind. Angel's wing. And then I can just lift up that corner and drop the angel's wing down. So it comes out about there. And then get the other angel's wing. Just go around the outside. And then just lift up that back again, and then we can tuck all this just underneath, like so. And then we can take the fish and then lift that arm up, place the fish where we want it, about there, so it looks like he's holding the fish in his hand, and then just lift up the glue stick and then just rub it down the back. There we go. And then finally I can add Dad's head. I'm not going to stick it down straight on because I'm just going to lay that over the top just to see whether or not I'll just lift it a little bit higher. I could still, if I want to, just add that over the top at a later date. Glue that down. So there is my collage image. So all I need to do now is to add my quote. So I've printed off at the same time as I did all those my quote, which I've cut out into little bits. So let's just clean off that glue real quick. Excuse the wobble. And then I've brought in my archival ink and I've got an ink blending tool, so I'm just going to quickly run that just around the edges just to grunge it up a little bit. So that one. Doesn't matter if they get a little bit distressed. It's all part and parcel. And then you'll be able to see, as if you haven't worked out what my phrase is, my quote for this art journal page today is going to be. There we go. I'm sorry, I can't seem to locate my ordinary today. Days when I find it difficult, I can't bring myself to be normal. So theoretically I can stick that down there if I want to at a later date. Not sure whether I want to do that just yet. Okay, so I'm going to glue down my phrase. Mr. Bentley's decided to start digging on the beds. Bentley, stop it! He's terrible. It's almost like he's digging for gold. And then just run the glue stick along. I don't know what I'd do without these diary glue sticks there. Perfect for doing this kind of thing. I suppose there are other glue sticks on the market. Just make sure that I'm not going over if I do decide to add that on, that I'm not getting this in the way. That's peeling up. Not enough glue. There we go. Do you know what? I think I am going to stick that on. I think I am going to add that diving helmet to it. The temptation is just too much. Let's do it. Make sure I get Dad's face in properly, get the right angle for it. There we go. That looks like it's resting on the shoulders. And stick it down. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so get the glue cleaned off. Give that time just to grab and set a little bit, and then I'll be right back just for the last few finishing touches. Now everything's dry, the colour of his suit is kind of like a pale lavender powder blue. So I've got pale powder blue acrylic paint here. So I'm just going to add just a little bit into the background, well, into the background-ish. And I've got an old tube. This was actually what my pokey tool came in when I bought it, and I kept it because I like the size of the tube. So I'm going to use it for mark making. So I'm just going to add some little circles that complement the colour of his suit. And it's okay to actually take it over the end. And actually go over to ground or blend in, if you like. They also look like bubbles, which is kind of cute. So you can use different sizes. So I've got a slightly bigger one here, and then I can add just one or two. Just kind of finish off. That's better. Like that. And I think they're probably going to be the right kind of size. I've never tried using the other side. Let's just have a go. Might be able to get maybe some larger circles. Let's see if we can get plenty of paint on. We might actually get some solids. Don't need many. I think actually that'll do. I don't need to do many more of those. I'll just clean off my tube. It's actually cracked. Never mind. Get rid of that paint. Quick clean. I'll get this dried off and I'll be back in next to no time. Right, so just while the last remnants of that paint is drying, I've got a little bottle of Glossy accents here, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to add some Glossy accents just to the inside of that opening, just to make it look as though Dad is peering out behind glass. And of course this will take a little while to dry, because that's the nature of Glossy accents. So I shall probably... oh, got a bubble, there we go. So I shall do that and then come back when it's all dry and set. So it's now the next day. I left the Glossy accents to dry overnight, and as you can see, Dad's now got glass in the front of his diving helmet, and I also added a little blob just on the fish's eye as well, so you can see that there is a little bit of a shine on the fish's eye as well. So I thought that would just make it look a little bit different. So that looks absolutely brilliant. I'm really pleased with the way that shine has come through. So I just want to add a little bit of grounding and shading just towards the bottom, just down here under the puppy's feet. I'm just using a Derwent charcoal pencil. This is a light one, so it's not too heavy. It's not dark. Just to add a little bit, like I said, of the grounding just underneath the feet a little bit. Ooh, that probably wants sticking back down again. Because it's up to you how dark you go with something like this. But I think that's probably just enough. Just to add a little bit of shadow, just to finish that off. Right, let's just grab some more glue, because these things sometimes happen. A bit more glue down there, just wipe off the excess. That should hold it. And I think I'm going to call this done. So all I need to do is just to sign it and date it. March 2019, but not sure when this is going to get seen, so there you go. Haven't planned it or scheduled it yet. That's it. That is my steampunk page, or my second steampunk page for this 7-day series. I hope you've enjoyed watching me put that together, pulling in those colours from his clothing into the background as well, and adding those little cute accents of the shine. Definite mixed media. So I hope you've enjoyed watching that. If you have, please remember to give it a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, then you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. Thank you.